Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with an interesting new knife consult for you on the Begg Knives Astio. I'm a little bit behind the curve in making this video. This knife has been around for a couple of years now, but it's taken a little while for me to be able to get it in my hands. I wanted to thank my buddy Sid. He goes by @RumbleBlades on Instagram, and he's a good friend of mine, and he sent me a couple of blades for review. So thank you, Sid, for again providing some of your awesome collection for an evaluation. The reason that I did not pick up the Astio right away was because it is the very first knife that represents a new era for Begg Knives. So Begg Knives was originally Todd Begg. Todd Begg being a knife maker, and he and his brother Mark founded the company Begg Knives. They eventually had some conflicts of interests, I'll call it, and they have since split ways, where Todd is now making his own custom knives under his own name, and Begg Knives continues under Mark's management. This is the first knife to come out of the new era of Begg Knives, where Todd is no longer designing the knives. Todd's knives are legendary. The Bodega and the other models that he's designed, again, the Glimpse and the other models that he's designed that are escaping my memory right now. Namely, the Bodega and the Glimpse are just two of the most popular models. They've gone all the way from full crazy customs all the way down to production models from Riot knives and Wee knives. But for unknown reasons that I don't care to get into, the two have now split. And so this knife was actually designed by JVO, Jared Van Otterloo, out of South Africa. JVO is a well-known and well-regarded designer. I am a big fan of all of his designs, including this one. It's quite a beautiful-looking knife. It's almost as if JVO was asked to reinterpret the Bodega, and here you get the Astio. They have since come out with yet another knife that sort of is another evolution of this design, and you can go ahead and take a look at the Begg Knives website for all of the models that they have available. But I wanted to check out this one because I remember the Bodegas being very, very nice. Another interesting shift in how these knives are made, and it's been this way for a little while, but the folks over in the California Custom Shop, as it was so called, are the ones creating these knives. So they are made in the U.S. by a number of people. It's really kind of unclear how many people are making these knives, but it is a small group of people, only a handful of people, not a large production facility, rather a small custom-style shop, sort of in the way of Olamic and some of the other guys out there. A small number of people help to make these knives. And it's been very interesting to see the progression of the company since the changeover of the leadership. And I think that it's cool to see how they're forging their own new path. So I've rambled enough about the company itself. Let's go ahead and get some vital signs on the Astio right here. Up front, you're looking at a 3.5-inch blade, 4 inches to the pivot, 8 1/4 of overall length. You've got about 4.6 or 4.7 inches of handle length with an effective grip area right at 4 inches. It's a bit of a thicker knife. The handle thickness is going to be coming in here at 0.56, and the blade stock is coming in at a standard 150 thousandths on the nose right there. So just a little bit over a 1/2 inch on the thickness, but it just feels a little bit robust. I imagine that the weight is going to be somewhere above 5 ounces. If it's below that, I'll be impressed. It's right at 5 ounces. So 5 ounces on this specific model with these specific inlays, these unidirectional carbon fiber inlays, 5 ounces on the nose. So it's a little bit on the heavy side for a 3.5-inch blade, but you feel this sort of luxurious sort of weightiness to it that I really like. It has a very solid sense of quality to it, and so those 5 ounces do not go wasted. It feels really nice on this knife. So let's go ahead and bring out another couple of knives for a quick size comparison. Here is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3. If I line them up, you'll see it's pretty much exactly the same size as the Para 2 right there. So it is on the larger side of some knives here. Here is a 3.5-inch blade right here, the Peter Resenti Nirvana. And another one here is the Holt Bladeworks Spectre, coming in at around 3.6 inches on that one. So this may be in the 3.5 to 3.6 inch range, depending on how exactly you are measuring it. Let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically and see what we're working with. Up front is this blade done in RWL 34 steel. They work with the Damasteel steels, which are RWL, and the Damasteel patterned Damascus steels. They do some beautiful finish work. This is where the Begg Knives company really succeeds, is their finish work. This is that mirrored stonewash that I like so much. You can see that on the Rosenti that I just brought out. It's so much fun to see how different people interpret this finish. This one has a very fine stonewashing, but a very, it's aggressive but also fine. So a lot of stonewashing, but very fine. It really glitters almost. It's a very good looking finish, but it also feels very, very smooth to the touch. I'm going to put fingerprints all over this knife. It is a fingerprint magnet, this mirror washed finish, but I happen to love it. Now take a look at these beautiful grinds. Compound ground blade right here. We've got this hollow ground recurve right here, and then a flat ground area out at the tip. Awesome harpoon swedge that appears to be flat ground as well, heading out to the tip there. It's got the Begg style fuller going on right there. That is one of Todd's trademark looks. It seems that that look is going to stay within the Begg Knives family, and so that's cool to see. Unfortunately, it is not a functional fuller for opening the knife, so it's kind of stays down in there, and it's too smooth and too far away to actually use to open the knife. That's okay, but it's just one of those things. If a lot of people have that question on knives with fullers like this. That fuller pattern is continued onto the lock bar. You can actually see it right there. While we're talking about it, we can notice that detail right there. I really like the blade. It's thinly ground. It slices pretty well. It's not going to be the Paramilitary 2 for you, but it works quite well. These recurved tantos actually function quite well for everyday cutting tasks. This one has a nice stabby tip, and these points right here after the recurve really draw your material in. So it's going to be quite a functional blade in addition to being quite an aggressive blade. It has a very unique sharpening choil area that will allow you to sharpen the knife. It does have that flare, that sort of designed flare here at the back. If you don't like that, you can sharpen that away. There is enough of a choil for you to get rid of that. Moving back to the pivot, this thing is running on very smooth ball bearings, ceramic bearings, ceramic detent, extremely fast action and very smooth on the closure. This is not a super free-falling, drop-shut Norseman style closure, but rather that sort of controlled, very nice amount of friction as the knife blade drops kind of closures. And it's quite nice, and the action is quite good. This thing runs on a flipper tab. One of my complaints about this knife is that the flipper tab is maybe a little bit too smooth. I have rather soft hands because I'm a surgeon, and so I don't have very rough hands. And so I sometimes don't need a lot of jimping, but I have found myself missing this flipper tab a few times because the detent is medium strong and there's just not a lot of aggressive grip on that thing, so it slides off. That is a very minor complaint. I would rather have a smooth and comfortable flipper tab that this is than an overly jimped flipper tab, one that I miss 1 out of every 50 flips rather than one that is uncomfortable every time I flip it. That is a very minor complaint, but I will say this could have done with maybe a couple of non-aggressive jimps for some extra traction. Minor issue right there, really not a major thing. What it does do is keep in line with the sort of smooth texturing seen elsewhere on the knife. This is more of a gentleman's tactical folder rather than a true hardcore user knife. It's really approaching the artistic side of knives with this one right here. The action is very nice. Centering is excellent. One of the things that I really enjoy about some knives like this, I saw this on the Philippe Georget Hi-Fi, is the way that the blade contours to the handle right here. It's very nicely done, and it really accentuates the centering and the tolerances and the tight lines and construction quality of this piece when you see it like that. Commenting on the pivot hardware, this has some nice polished, probably steel hardware. What they've done is put a titanium crackled ice finish, pivot collars on there on both sides. Very nice accent right there. Moving back to the handles, these are done in titanium. Some very clever inlays going on right here. I really like the way that these inlays are done. This is unidirectional carbon fiber. They've done a series of other ones from micarta up to Timascus, dragon skin, you name it, they've done an inlay. And that's the whole point of this knife, is the modularity that they have with these inlay spaces. There's one on the back as well. I think that this one, done with this dark blue titanium finish, take a look at that. It's almost like it's DLC and then tumbled and then dark anodized. Really incredible finish. I really, really like this one a lot. I don't think that they're going to sell any more that look quite like this. This one was sort of a one-off that they had available on the site, and Sid picked it up. Take a look at the back spacer. This is presumably also titanium, done in this dark cracked ice finish, as well as the clip in titanium with the Begg style ball bearing on it. Very functional clip. A little bit on the tighter side, but it works pretty well. The ball allows it to slide in and out. It's not it doesn't have the most spring. I'll attribute that to the 3D milled nature of this end of the clip over here. But it works quite well, and it's tall enough to go into most pants. So what do I think of the Begg Knives Astio? Well, I have to include the price. This thing is going to be coming in somewhere in the $1,000 price range, give or take. Some of these special editions are quite a bit more than that. Some of them are slightly less in these slightly less fancy finishes with like micarta. However, you have to take into consideration the things that are happening here. The company has now evolved. No longer includes Todd Begg, the original sort of knife designer and maker. This knife is no longer designed in-house, although it continues to be built completely in-house. It is now built by a small team of custom knife makers within the shop rather than one person, rather than maybe one or two people. And so it represents a shift in sort of the whole nature of the business. Now, this is a quality piece. I cannot deny at all that this is a quality piece. I failed to mention an actual interesting engineering feat that they've achieved here. The handle actually has 3 pieces. So there's the front scale here, and then the back scale actually has the frame part up top. That includes the pivot. And then fixed onto the back spacer is a second part of the frame that actually includes the frame lock. And the lock bar actually travels underneath that front frame so that you have your lock bar totally hidden away. It's very different than some type of bolster lock attempts or bolster lock designs like on the Hold Blade Works Spectre right here. I haven't even made this video as of recording this Astio video, but I wouldn't call it a bolster lock because it's almost a separate piece entirely. Very, very interesting adaptation of technology on there. And so back to my point here, I think that the knife is every bit of the quality that we would come to expect from Begg Knives in the past, present, and future. There is no denying that. Whether or not these knives are worth it to you is a different thing entirely. I think that the quality is there. I think that the customizability is there, and I think that the uniqueness is there. This is a one-off knife featuring some very nice materials and finishes, and so I think that it is worth the price of admission. However, it's just one of those things where psychologically one has to consider where is the value in these higher-end knives? Because if we're talking raw construction materials costs, these materials might not cost significantly different than, say, a Spyderco knife or something like that. You're getting high-quality steel, titanium, and carbon fiber and other things, but the cost is going to be coming more in line with the name and the quality and the people behind it. And while I think Mark Begg is a great human being, I've seen him at the shows and I've seen him interacting with people, and he is generally a really nice and really great guy, and his company seems to be doing great, and I wish them all the best. This is sort of a transition period where we have to decide if Begg Knives is going to be able to continue in the same way as it has before without Todd. And to be honest, I think it will. I really do. I think that Todd is kind of off making some unique designs that are not necessarily universally loved. And Begg Knives is going to continue to attempt to make high-quality, beautiful knives like this. And I really do wish them much success. Really, I want these knives to continue to do well. And I'm happy to be able to check this one out. It is every bit as nice as I was hoping it would be. I really have no complaints about the knife. There are no hot spots. It's very comfortable in the hand. It's extremely beautiful and extremely well made, and it's a really good size. It's a nice weight. I mean, I'm struggling to find anything particularly wrong with this knife except the price being very high and the situation with the company itself. However, I think that this is quite the statement for Begg Knives to show that they can stand on their own and that they have a strong vision of what they're going to do in the future. So really impressed with this piece. Thank you to Sid for sending this along. And I'm definitely happy to see the quality there, and I look forward to what Begg Knives does next. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of the Astio down below in the comments. Go ahead and click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Head over to Instagram and follow me as Dr. Frunkey. Follow these guys at Begg Knives, and as always, take care.